When you walk to the edge of all the light you have and take that first step into the darkness of the unknown, you must believe that one of two things will happen. There will be something solid for you to stand upon, or you'll be taught to fly. The unknown is making itself known. Like a specter or a paper tiger, it had no substance or claws. If you had reached out and touched it, your hand would have passed right through. You did not dare. What once seemed solid was just a shaky facade held together with spit and string. You held your breath so it would not topple. When it did, it turned to dust and blew away. Humanity's future prospects. Many people would agree that it is more likely than not that we will eventually do ourselves in. And in fact, some astrobiologists theorize that all advanced civilizations hit the same insurmountable developmental wall we have. They call it the Great Filter. It is a notion that is often invoked to explain why we have never been visited by extraterrestrials. With no high degree evidence of intelligent life other than ourselves, it appears that the process of starting with a star and ending with advanced universe-exploring life must be unlikely. This implies that at least one step in this process must be improbable. This list, while incomplete, describes the following 9 steps in an evolutionary path that results in the colonization of the observable universe. 1. You have the right kind of star system, including organics and potentially habitable planets. 2. Reproductive molecules, example, RNA, DNA. 3. Simple, prokaryotic single-cell life. 4. Complex, eukaryotic single-cell life. 5. Multicellular life. 6. Sexual reproduction. 7. Tool-using animals with big brains. Primary appendages allow high degree of manual dexterity. 8. This is where we are now. Primates with big brains and little wisdom, whose primary recreational activity is shooting each other in the face and selling each other out for little green pieces of paper. 9. Colonization explosion of the galaxy. Filter is the idea that although there is lots of matter, we observe no advanced universe-exploring life, like spacefaring intelligences. So there's some filter through which almost all matter gets stuck before becoming expanding, lasting life. One question for those interested in the future of humankind is whether we have already passed the bulk of the filter, or does it still lie ahead? For example, is it very unlikely matter will be able to form self-replicating units, but once it clears that hurdle, becoming intelligent and going across the stars is highly likely? Or is it getting to a humankind level of development is not that unlikely, but very few of those civilizations progress to expanding across the stars? If the latter, that motivates a concern for working out what the forthcoming filters are and what we can do to get past them. According to the Great Filter hypothesis, at least one of these steps, if the list were complete, must be improbable. If it is not an early step, for example, in our past, then the implication is that the improbable step lies in our future, and our prospects of interstellar colonization are still very bleak. If the past steps are likely, then many civilizations would have developed to the current level of the human species. However, none appear to have made it to step 9, or the Milky Way would be full of colonies. So perhaps step 9 is the unlikely one, and the only thing that appears likely to keep us from step 9 is some sort of catastrophe or the resource exhaustion leading to rampant consumption of the available resources, like, for example, highly constrained energy resources. So, by this argument, finding multicellular life on Mars, provided it evolved independently, would be bad news, since it would imply steps 2 through 6 is easy, and hence only 1, 7, 8, or 9, or some unknown step, could be the big problem. Although steps 1 through 8 have occurred on Earth, any of these may be unlikely. If the first 7 steps are necessary preconditions to calculating the likelihood, using the local environment, then an anthropologically biased observer can infer nothing about the general probabilities from its predetermined surroundings. One concern is that advancing technology gives the possibility of civilizations wiping themselves out, and it is this that is the main component of the Great Filter, one we're going to be approaching soon. There are several candidates for which technology will be an existential threat, such as nanotechnology, nuclear holocaust, runaway climate change, man's inhumanity to man, just to name a few. The one that looms large in these thought excursions is artificial intelligence. Trying to understand and mitigate the existential threat from AI is the main role of the Singularity Institute. They consider AI the main existential threat above all others. The concern with artificial intelligence is something like this. AI will soon greatly surpass us in intelligence in all domains. If this happens, artificial intelligence will rapidly supplant humans as the dominant force on planet Earth. Almost all artificial intelligences, even ones we create with the intent to be benevolent, will probably be unfriendly to human flourishing. They will not rationalize like us, will not feel like us. Any sufficiently advanced AI is essentially an alien intelligence, not an extension of us. Nothing in our biological history involves silicon. Or you can think of it this way. AI leads to intelligence explosion, and because we do not know how to give an artificial intelligence benevolent goals, by default, an intelligence explosion will optimize the world for accidentally disastrous ends. A controlled intelligence explosion, on the other hand, could optimize the world for good. So the aim of the game needs to be trying to work out how to control the future intelligence explosion, so the vastly smarter than human artificial intelligences are friendly and make the world better for us, rather than unfriendly artificial intelligences which end up optimizing the world for something that really, really sucks. This thought stream then leads to the question, where is everybody? Yes, it is possible that the extreme difficulty and rarity of life's origin or some early step, so that, other than here on Earth, all life in the universe is stuck before this early extremely hard step. But even if you find this the most likely outcome, surely given our ignorance, you must also place a non-trivial probability on other possibilities. You must see a great filter as lying between initial planets and expanding civilizations and wonder how far along that filter we are. You must estimate a substantial chance of disaster, i.e., something destroying our ability or inclination to make a visible use of the vast resources we see. And this disaster cannot be unfriendly super AI, because that would be visible. This makes me realize that unfriendly artificial intelligences should also be counted as an expanding lasting life, and should be deemed unlikely by the Great Filter. Alternatively, if the Great Filter still lies ahead of us, and a major component of this forthcoming filter is the threat from unfriendly artificial intelligences, we should expect to see the unfriendly artificial intelligences of other civilizations spreading across the universe, or not see anything at all, because they would wipe us out to optimize for their unfriendly ends. That we do not observe, it disconfirms this conjunction. It also gives a stronger argument, as the unfriendly artificial intelligences is the expanding life we do not see, the beliefs. The Great Filter lies ahead, and unfriendly artificial intelligences is a major existential risk, lie opposed to one another. The higher your credence in the filter being ahead, the lower your credence should be in unfriendly artificial intelligence being a major existential risk, as the many civilizations like ours that go on to get caught in the filter do not produce expanding unfriendly artificial intelligences. So expanding unfriendly artificial intelligence cannot be the main existential risk. Conversely, if you are confident that unfriendly artificial intelligence is the main existential risk, then you should think the bulk of the filter is behind us. As we don't see any unfriendly artificial intelligences, there cannot be many civilizations like ours in the first place, as we are quite likely to realize an expanding unfriendly artificial intelligence. This, of course, a variant of the Fermi paradox. We do not see clues to widespread large-scale engineering, and consequently, we must conclude that we are alone. But the possibility flawed assumption here is when we say that highly visible construction projects are an inevitable outcome of intelligence, it could be that it is the engineering of the small rather than the large that is inevitable. This follows from the laws of inertia. Smaller machines are faster and require less energy to function, as well as the speed of light. Small computers have faster internal communication. It may be, and this is, of course, speculation, that advanced societies are building small technology and have little incentive or need to rearrange their stars in their neighborhoods, for instance. They may prefer to build nanobots instead of Dyson spheres. It should also be kept in mind that, as Arthur C. Clarke said, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. I'd like to add to the phrase, or be unrecognizable altogether. So if the Great Filter is behind us, it would do much to explain the Fermi paradox and the absence of extraterrestrial influence on the cosmos. Should that be the case, we may very well have a bright future ahead of us. The Milky Way galaxy is literally ours for the taking, our future completely open-ended. But before we jump to conclusions, it is only fair to point out that we are not out of the woods yet. There could be very well be another Great Filter in the future, one just as stingy as the filters of our past. The universe, while giving the appearance of bio-friendliness, may, in reality, be extremely hostile to intelligent life.